Thank you everyone for attending. My name is Faustine Chan. I'm the Business Innovation Manager for BB Serving Pacific Southwest. And we've been providing webinars twice a week for our business owners during this time, just to help them navigate through their business and just some of the problems that they're experiencing. Hopefully give you tools that you can take back to your business and hopefully implement as well. So this webinar is being recorded. So if you do need to leave at any time or if you need to review the information, it will be posted within 1 to 2 business days on events.bbcommunity.org. If you do have questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the chat option. We do have it under Zoom. We can answer them at the end. I want to introduce today's speaker today. We have Kristina Albert. She is a certified executive coach and international leadership advisor who helps professionals achieve their goals and break through to new levels of success and satisfaction in their lives. As a global HR professional, she has worked with organizations and in her spare time, Kristina enjoys sports, reading, and traveling around the globe. She's extremely passionate about cooking and baking and loves to experiment with different tastes and textures to create her own recipes. So please welcome our speaker today, Kristina Albert.
Well, thank you, Faustine, and welcome everyone, and thanks for joining. And yeah, I do love to cook and bake, and I can have more of that lately, so that's fantastic. Now, today our topic is going to be Lost in Translation, 3 secrets to successfully communicate in times of chaos and uncertainty. And before I jump into the content, I did want to address the fact that we are in very extreme times right now. And there's a lot of content coming out about how to pivot and how to deal with the current crisis. So I wrestled with whether I should present all of my content solely based on what's happening right now. But as we go through the presentation, you will notice I decided against it. And that's because so much about powerful and successful communication is really based on fundamentals and essentials. Only with that foundation in place, we are able to build and improve our communication skills. So today, we're going to mostly look into the basic principles of powerful conversations. And for sure, we will also talk about how to apply them right now in those very unprecedented times and where to pivot. Because with that, you will be prepared not only for the times right now, but also for the longer run. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, I'm gonna switch to my presentation. So let me pull it up real quick and go to presentation mode. Here we go. And I'm gonna stop my video because I do have a tendency to make very wild hand gestures, and that can be incredibly distracting. So you're welcome. I also want to let you know that I will invite you to interact as we go along here. So have your chat available. And at the end of the presentation, we're going to do some Q&A. So please keep your questions up until the end. All right. So first thing I want to ask you is, have you ever felt like this? Imagine you're having an important conversation with another person and you really want a specific message to get across. You feel absolutely certain that the other person understands what you said, but then days later you have to realize they didn't, which then led to a misunderstanding and confusion, maybe a missed deadline, or even a bad turn in a client relationship. So can you relate to this? Well, the good news is you are not alone. And it's frustrating, I know, because you're accomplished, you're smart, but you wouldn't believe how often it happens, how often communication ends in an error or mistake. So today it's really about understanding what can get in the way of successful communication, but also what is necessary to have an effective conversation. And what I promise to do, I will provide you with a structure and a system so you can bring all your talents and your brilliance to the table and then maximize them. So you become an even stronger communicator than before. And here's what we're gonna do today. We will uncover the mystery of great communicators. You will learn 3 simple strategies to embrace your communication style so you can be more confident and effective in all your future conversations. And we will factor in the 3 essential elements of leadership excellence so you can maximize your success. Plus, we're gonna spend a little time integrating and implementing to create lasting impact. And the truth is, there's a lot to learn. And I wanna make sure that we stay connected and I continue to support you beyond today. So if you wanna stay in the loop for upcoming resources, all you have to do is send me an email to Kristina@leadershipexcellence.consulting. And I recommend you do it now because for fun, and I know we all could use some fun right now, I'm going to do a giveaway at the end. I'm going to do a drawing for this book, The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. It's one of my favorites. It's a quick read, very motivational, just the perfect fit for the current times. And for those who are feeling like, yeah, I just met you, Kristina, I'm not going to send you an email. That is totally fine. You'll get another chance to get into the drawing towards the end. All right, so now that we have the housekeeping out of the way, I want to hear from you. You have a lot of choices how to spend your time. So I want to know, and you can just put this in the chat area, why is this topic important to you? What is it that made you say, you know what, I'm going to take an hour and invest it here instead of investing it somewhere else? So just put it in the chat. Doesn't need to be a novel, just a few words. And I'm curious to hear why you're here. Here, Patty says communication is key. Patty, I agree. That is so, so true. And I've seen it several times in my life, in my career, how it was really the differentiator between success and failure of projects, of relationships, etc., etc. So anyone else? And this is the participation portion of the presentation. So if anyone wants to share something, that would be great. Good communication and understanding makes life easier. Oh yes, for sure. For sure. If you're not kind of talking kind of at each other and you're not understanding each other, that's definitely making your life easier. Because my entire team works remotely, communicating effectively is more important than ever, Faustine says. Yes, I agree. And that's why I actually built this, this webinar for the time being, because I mean, communication is never easy, but these days it's even more critical and even more challenging. So I love all your comments here and I agree. So let's look into that. But before we're gonna go into the detailed content, I also wanna give you my background so you can get an idea where all of this comes from. So this is me now. And you might have already heard my accent. I'm a German expat, currently living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm proud to say that I have my own coaching practice, Leadership Excellence LLC, which really allows me to follow my passion to help and coach people. And in normal times, I get to travel and spend time with people who are most important to me. So I'm pretty much in my happy place right now. But it wasn't always like that. I had a corporate job. I was working as an HR director in one of the biggest pharma companies worldwide. And I was running around like a crazy person, pleasing everyone, never saying no, taking on too many projects, basically working 24/7. And I kept doing this actually until my body told me that it was enough and that I had to speak up. So I started to communicate, saying no to some projects, delegating some tasks, and setting reasonable timelines. And honestly, that was a game changer for me. Because as soon as I was more vocal and more specific with my communication, I was able to gain back control, live up to my real potential, and enjoy life again. And here I mean life outside of work. And through all of these personal and partly really painful learnings, and through the input of many senior leaders and experts I worked with back in those times, I developed this framework of leadership excellence. And what we're going to learn today about communication is actually incorporated in it. It's this system that helps my coaching clients, whether they're business owners, corporate leaders, or individual contributors, to get to that next level in their career, where they can celebrate more successes and experience more balance in their life. And today I'm going to share that with you too. Now, you might be wondering if all of that also applies to you. And here I want to point out that this is a framework not just for leaders in the sense of people managers. This is for everyone. Because in my understanding, we are all leaders in one or another way. Because we all influence others and we all make a difference to others. So leadership excellence means really your own excellence to lead and thrive in your career and life. Now, from all these experiences, I've learned 3 things for a fact. Anyone can learn how to communicate successfully and effectively. To be a great communicator, you must always be prepared. When you're intentional, communication can be easy. Winging it does not work. So the first thing we're going to do is uncover the mystery of great communicators. And here's the truth. There isn't much of a mystery about them. It's actually pretty simple. Great communicators know that the key to success is basically the planning before the actual conversation, because that creates the necessary foundation that allows them to shine during the conversation. And it's not that they spend hours and days on this. What they do is, before they communicate, they take a step back and get clear about 3 things: their audience, their intent, and their message. And of course, there's more to great communicators than just the planning piece, and we'll get into that in a couple of minutes. But what really differentiates great from good or moderate is the intentional preparation before the conversation. Now, you might have expected something groundbreaking here, and now you're thinking, that's it? Is that all? Well, it is and it isn't, because the reality, and I'm sure you already know this, is that successful communication is not that mysterious. It is actually pretty stable and reliable, which brings me to the good news today. The foundation of communication has not changed in our current chaotic times. It is still mostly about planning, practicing, and then perfecting it. So let's jump into number 2. You're going to learn 3 simple strategies how to embrace your communication style so you can be confident and effective in all your future conversations. But before we get into the details, let's first address the mindset. Because if we don't address the mindset first, then no matter what we learn here today, it's easy to snap back to doing what we've always done. So the tool here is a simple single question that gently but persistently shifts your perspective. Here's the question. Am I willing for this to be easy? And I know that sounds crazy. Actually, I think that sounds very crazy for the time we're living in. But I promise you, our brain is essentially a yes man. And so if our primary thinking is, this is hard, this is difficult, this is challenging, our brain is going to turn around and say, you got it. I'm going to put obstacles in your path. I'm going to make this as difficult as possible. By using this question, am I willing for this to be easy? We are working in harmony with the way our brain is built. It is built to give you answers in alignment with the direction you are thinking. So when you say, am I willing for this to be easy? Your brain seeks out the simplest creative answers. And let me underpin that message with a quote from Brian Tracy, who's a successful speaker and author. And he says, communication is a skill that you can learn. It's like riding a bicycle or typing. If you're willing to work at it, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life. So if we look back into the framework I showed you before, communication is just one piece of the people element. But in my eyes, it is the most important one. because it naturally influences us and impacts all the others and serves as key factor to reach your own personal excellence. All right, now let's get started with a little exercise. So here comes the interaction piece. And please, for a first step, think of one unsatisfying conversation you had in the last 2 weeks that ended in a misunderstanding, misinterpretation, lack of outcome, or simply didn't go as you had expected. That's step one. Then in a second step, let's go a bit further and focus on one key element of the communication that drove the lack of success. And I listed some examples on the slide here. So it could be no listening, not being prepared, being off topic, wrong timing, etc., etc. So if you want, take out a piece of paper and just write down 1 or 2 bullet points as a reminder for yourself. And I will give you, let's say, a minute to do this. And I know this is the speed round, but then I'd like to invite you to share what you discovered. All right, I hope everything is clear. Now, ready and go. All right, you got about 10 seconds left. And time, and I know that was super speedy. But what I would hope you got out of this is a moment of awareness, because this is typically where it starts, realizing and identifying what is not working well up until today, and then being willing to work on this. But now let's hear from you. I would like to invite you to type in the chat what you just discovered during the exercise. So just a few words, doesn't need to be long. What did you realize or identify? Anyone willing to share? All right, Faustine is saying, I need to share deadlines and follow up with them. Yeah, well, I need share deadlines and follow up on them. Well, I did not get that 100%, but definitely deadlines, follow up, this is so crucial, always. Now, Patty says, being prepared helps me communicate more effectively. I absolutely agree, Patty. This has helped me tremendously when I prepare myself before a conversation or before I get some message out there. This has always been very helpful. And Letitia says, issues with clarity. Well, I'm assuming you mean issues with clarity in the sense of in conversations, it was not clear what was discussed and agreed on. And so you might have left a conversation and you were not sure really what to do or what to take out of it. And we have more comments coming up. That's wonderful. Terry says, poor time. You should have asked if it was a good time to talk. Oh yeah. We know that all, right? When you're kind of bringing up a topic and it's just not the right time. Yeah, that's no fun, for sure not. And Michael says, I realized that I haven't spent enough time researching what my client's needs are. Oh, well, yeah, that goes back to preparation, right? Knowing whom you're going to talk to and then being prepared for that. I love those comments. Awesome. Oh, and Faustine is kind of reconfirming what she meant. I need to share strict deadlines on projects and follow up with my team if they need help in order to get the project done. Yeah, that is awesome. And we're going to talk about that later on, because this is one piece of my strategy, the follow up. And here again, Carlos, follow up, and assuming everyone knows what I know. Yeah, again, this is happening very often. I fully agree, and we're going to talk about that later on. And then we have Eileen. I ended a conversation with someone I just met to learn about them. The other person was secretive in order to get me to attend a sales pitch. We were not on the same page and never did get there. It ended with me not learning what that person actually did, different goals in the conversation. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Eileen. But yeah, this can happen, and it's definitely not a pleasant situation. And Jean says, I should have emailed the action items from our conversation. Yeah, again, follow up. I love that. Thank you all for sharing that. Those are great comments, and we're definitely going to address a lot of it. So let's move on to the core presentation, where I'm going to reveal the 3 secrets to successful communication. Are you ready for this? Okay, secret number 1, prepare. Secret number 2, adjust. And secret number 3, guess what? Follow up. Now, I would love to read your mind, because I'm sure that many of you are wondering, what is the secret here? That is nothing new to me. And you are right. And you will realize that not so much of the following content is really a secret. And that's because communication isn't built on surprises, mysteries, or secrets. It is first and foremost built on basics and fundamentals. And that's actually what I would hope to get across today. That we remind ourselves of the simple but effective key elements of great communication, and that we incorporate them more and consistently in our daily conversations. Even more so in the current chaotic and uncertain times. Now, I will walk you through each of these principles separately while I illustrate them also with some examples. So let's start with prepare. You might remember I've highlighted this before when I talked about the mystery, or actually the truth about great communicators. But honestly, I think it can't be stressed enough how crucial it is to prepare your communication and build your foundation. You know, I've seen it so many times back in my corporate days. The most important part in any transformation or change management process was the preparation of the communication plan beforehand. We could have perfectly executed on everything else, but the differentiator between success or failure was always the preparation phase. And specifically that means, and I will repeat what I said earlier, and by the way, repetition is a key element of successful communication, so we'll talk about it later. But before you send a message, before you have a conversation, before you communicate in any way, take a step back and get clear about 3 things: audience, intent, and message. Now, let me share a personal story. When I grew up, I was always impressed by the communication skills of my dad. As part of his job, he's been giving many lectures and presentations around the globe, and also at family gatherings. He spontaneously stood up and told a fantastic speech. Now, guess what? And I only learned this later. He always prepared himself before speaking. And even if that meant making notes on a napkin, just 2 minutes before he started to talk. Not really mysterious, right? But extremely effective. Now, let's break it down a bit further. I keep telling my clients, know your audience. And by that, I don't mean you should know them like in and out, but be as clear as possible about who's going to be in front of you. What's the size of your audience? What's their role or seniority level? What kind of personality or preferences do they have? Knowing all of this helps significantly to customize your message so your audience will understand and perceive it correctly. Now, this is a general principle that always applies regardless of the external conditions, whether being in the midst of a pandemic or in a very prosperous time. Just going back to one of the comments from, I think it was Michael, who said, I was not clear about my client's needs before I went into the conversation. So definitely this is a piece where you can prepare yourself and then go into the conversation much more relaxed and comfortable and confident. Now moving on to intent. I hope you agree there should always be a purpose behind why we're communicating. Because honestly, there's really no point in speaking up if we don't have a solid reason to do so. So before we go into any kind of communication, let's be clear about what we're trying to accomplish. And that's even more important right now in these chaotic and uncertain times. So always make sure the intent of your message is 100% clear. Now what's left? The message. What do you want to say or write? Is it positive or negative? Should it be long? Should it be short? Do you need to add details, facts, background information, etc.? One advice I give my clients is actually to put themselves in their audience's shoes and to ask themselves if they would understand their message or if there is still room for interpretation. Because what I learned from my own experience is that the clearer, simpler, and more understandable the message, the less chance for assumptions and prejudices to get in the way. So let's move on to secret number 2, adjust. What I mean by that is adjust your communication style. That includes wording and tone, active listening, and choosing the right medium. Now, did you know that 10% of conflicts is due to difference in opinion, but 90% is due to wrong tone of voice? That's unbelievable, right? But it makes sense because our tone is naturally present in all forms of communication, in the way we phrase our message and the words we choose to use. And you know what? This becomes really critical in written communications, because there is no voice, no facial expression, and no body language to convey the intent or emotion behind your message. So let me give you a real example of how this looks like. It's actually a situation that happened to me back in my corporate job. And it's been my boss who came to me and said, Kristina, the project deadline is in 2 days. There is still a lot to do and we don't have much time left. I need you to put in more effort and extra hours from now on. Whew, how did I perceive that message? I heard crazy deadline, extreme workload, and that I need to do better because it hasn't been good enough yet. So how did I feel afterwards? Stressed, disappointed that my boss was not satisfied with my work, and actually frustrated because the hard work I had put in already was never appreciated. Now consider my boss would have said the following instead. Kristina, our project deadline is Wednesday, and I know how hard you've been working on it. I hope you'll continue giving it your best to make this project a success. Did you experience it? While the meaning is mostly the same, the tone and the specific words make such a huge difference. And this is even more relevant right now, where it's so important to empathize with others. We are all going through this craziness and we are all looking for certain comfort and reassurance. So when you communicate these days, remember to always add a pinch of empathy in your wording and tone. Now, what is active listening? I'm sure you've heard of the phrase before. And it's actually something you're trained on when you become a coach. So it's really my bread and butter business. And as its name suggests, active listening means really actively listening with all your senses. And that includes both verbal and non-verbal messages, such as maintaining eye contact, nodding your head, agreeing by saying yes, or just smiling. Now, especially in times of change and uncertainty, in times of working remotely, active listening becomes even more critical. So what can we do? We can give more space to the other person. Listen in closely. Let them experience a non-judgmental and safe environment so they can speak about their feelings and their struggles. And what you will realize is that with active listening, the other person usually feels more at ease and then communicates more openly and honestly. So if you ask me, this is one of the most important tools to have a successful conversation, especially in our current times. Are we addicted to emails? Or why does an average office worker send or receive around 121 emails each and every day? And that's only the business emails. But ask yourself, is email always the best choice for getting a point across? Maybe not. Just think about all the situations where an email led to misunderstandings or misinterpretations. Instead, it might be worthwhile just to pick up the phone or to schedule a face-to-face meeting, or these days to have a video chat in order to really ensure you're making yourself clear and your message is understood. And as you see, I included one more data reference on the slide, and it says that communication is only 7% verbal, but 93% non-verbal, meaning body language and tone of voice. That is definitely something we need to keep in mind, and especially because we're living in such a visual world right now more than ever. We are forced to communicate remotely. We are stretched out of our comfort zone. I mean, just take this session as an example. I mean, normally we would have met face to face, but today we're using a video conference so we can all be connected. So these days, when you have conversations, just try to set up most of them as video chats using Zoom or Skype, or there are many other platforms, because this way you can see each other, you can read facial expressions from each other, and you can interact more naturally and authentically. And you know, I just see a comment from Eileen popping up, so important today as more people use text, walks, and other written ways to communicate. Yes, exactly. So keep in mind, there are so many platforms available for video chats. This is wonderful. And these days, I think most of them are even for free. So not much financial investment needed. All right. And with that, we're moving straight to the third secret, follow up. And we heard that many times already in the comments before. This seems to be really critical. And I believe this is your final strategy to really make sure that your communication was successful and understood. And the specific tools here are paraphrasing, repetition, and timely check-in. Now, paraphrasing should typically take place at the end of a conversation, where you summarize what has been said, discussed, or agreed, so that you can ensure you're both on the same page and you're confident there are no misunderstandings or misinterpretations. And by the way, there's another benefit to this tool. It significantly limits room for assumptions, stereotyping, or prejudices. Repetition. I guess and I hope that's a no-brainer. Never ever underestimate the power of repetition. It is for sure one of the most critical elements of successful and effective communication. And that's even scientifically proven. The more someone hears something, the more the brain responds and remembers. So when you say something more than once, the listener has the opportunity to digest and absorb what's being said, and accordingly has a better chance of understanding and internalizing it. And let me add one more point. Especially in times of change and uncertainty, like the ones right now, people seek for frequent and transparent communication, which is even underlined by a recent report that says 63% of employees asked for daily updates during COVID-19. So keep that in mind and repeat, repeat, repeat. Now here comes the final tool to make sure your communication was successful, the timely check-in. What do I mean by that? It could be an email, phone call, a face-to-face meeting, or a video chat that takes place not too long after the initial communication, where you basically check in whether the other person or group has understood your message clearly and knows what's expected from them, if anything. And it's also a chance for you to ask for first results or to see if you can offer your support. So definitely a great tool to make sure that the communication didn't get lost in translation or in the shuffle of our busy lives. And that becomes even more relevant right now. With so much going on around us, with working from home all the time, kids in the house, worries about your or your family's health, it is even more important to check in regularly and to see how the other one is doing. Now with that, we're at the end of the 3 secrets, and I hope this has been valuable and a good reminder for you and left you with the desire to have more successful and effective communications. Because that's when the beauty happens and communication becomes fun and rewarding. So don't forget to always prepare, adjust, and follow up. But we're not at the end of the presentation yet. What we're going to do now is we're going to step back, going to zoom out from the topic communication, because this is only one piece of the puzzle and there's so many more elements that need to be addressed in order for you to reach that next level of success in your life. So this is what we're going to do now as a last step. We will factor in the 3 essential elements of leadership excellence so you can maximize your success. Now I will quickly go over each of these elements and invite you to evaluate your existing efforts and identify areas of strength and areas for development and improvement. And you will see how all of that relates to your communication style and how it impacts your conversations. All right, let's start with the first element. People. People matter most. This is where everything starts and ends. The people around you, your clients, your team, but also your family and friends. They all take part in building your leadership. And when it comes to people, I believe there are 3 critical sub-elements. Number 1 is communication. And I already walked you through the structure and tools how to become a stronger communicator. But I would also like to share a success story with you. It's actually one of my clients. She's a business owner with her own insurance company, and she was struggling with client communication and follow-up. Things just didn't work the way she wanted it to be, and she realized that lots of deals failed just because of miscommunication. So we started working together, identified gaps, but also opportunities, and then implemented the 3 strategies: prepare, adjust, and follow up. And guess what? A couple of weeks later, she felt more confident and comfortable with conversations. Her frustration went significantly down because it was really extremely high, and her energy level went up, and she had more successful client relationships than ever before. And that's not just one example. This is how it usually works when you have the right structure and tools in place. Now, as to the other 2 sub-elements, I want to quickly focus on trust, because in my eyes, this is the foundation for every successful relationship, whether in business or in private. So think about your relationships. Are people coming to you to share their thoughts? Do they feel comfortable to speak up in front of you? If you were to rate yourself, is that an area where you stand out or where you could improve? And with that, let's move to the second element, passion. Something I've seen over time is that when you're passionate about what you do, you will interact from an authentic and inspiring place and eventually be more successful. Now, passion is based on 3 elements: values, vision, and motivation. And being a business owner myself, I know how important it is to have your values and vision clearly defined, because essentially this translates into your goals and your overall agenda. And that's why, for example, when I take on new clients, this is the first exercise we do together. We identify their core values and vision. So my question to you is, are you clear about your own values and where do you see yourself in the next, let's say, 1 to 3 years? Now, there's also a very timely aspect to this, because right now we're in a place where we're doing a lot of revisioning and pivoting. So you might be looking back into your goals and do some adjustments. I know I did. For example, I had planned for quite some in-person speaking events, and now look at me. I'm doing everything virtual. All right, let's move to the last element. Personality. What is it that you bring to the table and what makes you unique? Because that defines your personality and differentiates you from others. Now, looking at the sub-elements, let's quickly focus on self-awareness. It's such a timeless yet timely topic, and it also influences our communication skills. Because when we're mindful and we're reflecting on our behaviors and actions, we better understand the emotions of the people around us, and we're able to engage and respond to them in a different way. And let me share this. I've seen it firsthand with some of my clients, how an improving self-awareness can lead to a whole different level of maturity, inner peace, and balance. And in some cases, it even led to more successful relationships and new career opportunities. So this is for sure an area where I invite you to assess yourself and identify whether it's something you're already strong at or something you need to improve. Now, bigger picture, the areas that you just identified as strengths or something where you're good at, keep on doing them. Because as we always look to make improvements in our lives, it's so easy to focus on what needs improving and let go of what's working. So anything that works great right now, you want to make sure to keep doing. But anything that you identified as developmental areas, you want to start addressing these things. Now, specifically speaking about communication, you can do another evaluation and look at how do these elements each impact your communication style, and then what you need to do to get those things tuned up so that you're aligning each of these elements with your communication. And what happens when you put all this together, and it might seem like a lot of detail, and frankly it is, but if you're intentional and detailed about what you're doing, you will get better results with less effort. All right, I'm racing against the clock here, and I want to make sure I get everything in so I can serve you at the highest level. Now, it is time to integrate and implement to create lasting impact. So first thing is that all of these things are good ideas, hopefully, but without taking action, it's just a pleasant, maybe mildly amusing hour that we spend together. So what I want you to do right now, identify one bite-sized action that you can take in order to move forward and not lose momentum. That's the first step. The second piece is I want you to take the time and think about and imagine what is possible here. Because right now we worked a lot on left brain stuff, all the logical stuff, all the pragmatic stuff, but let's step into the imagination. Because we've got this creative center of the brain that we have to bring into play in order to get the most out of our efforts. So right now, I want to invite you to put down your pen, put down your phone, put everything down for a minute, and we're going to tap in those creative centers for a moment. If you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes at this point, and I want you to take a deep breath, and I'd like you to imagine having powerful conversations that you actually enjoy. Conversations where your message always comes across and is clearly understood. Communication isn't stressful anymore. You feel comfortable and confident. You've got a structure and all the tools you need. You know exactly how to prepare for your next message, and you feel ready for your next conversation. You know how to use your communication to address your needs, to speak up, and to build trustful and successful relationships. You do this with confidence and consistency and with ease. Take another nice deep breath and open your eyes. Is that a vision that works for you? I imagine it is. And the next thing to consider is really that there's one challenge with making changes. And that is, you're a busy person. So how do you keep this level of focus and inspiration week after week after week so you start seeing results? And this brings me to the third piece, which is your support system. When you're thinking about what you want and need, who do you have in your corner who's able to help and support you when you need it the most? Now, a lot of you might be getting that support through the Better Business Bureau or maybe your own networks. But if you don't have that support, I invite you to consider working with me. If you're looking into significantly improving your communication skills or another area of the Leadership Excellence Framework, let's just have a conversation and get clear what it's actually gonna take to make that happen. So what I'm offering today is a complimentary discovery call to explore the possibility of working together further. It's a great option if you're feeling stuck and not sure why, or you've been looking for some kind of support and can't picture what it would look like. The calls are complimentary, but they are limited in number and intended for people who are really committed to excelling and growing in the next 6 to 12 months and who are willing to invest in themselves. So if that sounds like you, then on this call, I'll walk you through a process to identify your top opportunities for growth. Then we'll decide together how to work together further, or if to work together further, to help you maximize those opportunities. I take this time personally because working together is an investment, and I want us both to be 100% confident that this is a great fit. Now, it's very easy to get on my calendar. You see the link on the page, booktodiscover.s.me. Just pick a date, pick your time, you write on the calendar. And if you're thinking, well, that sounds interesting, I just write down the link, I will get to it later. Then I'm going to give you some incentive to schedule now, so all this clarity and good intention doesn't get lost in the shuffle of your busy day. When you schedule in the next 30 minutes, you get a free gift, which is the digital copy of this webinar. All right, now it's time for the prize drawing right before we wrap up. So if at the beginning you thought it was a little too forward of me to ask you to send me an email to get into that drawing, now's your second chance. I'm going to give away a hard copy of the book, The Strangest Secret. It's gonna come in the mail, and all you have to do is send me an email to Kristina@leadershipexcellence.consulting with the subject line webinar. All right, I'm gonna give you a moment to enter the drawing, and I will show you my super duper high-tech way of choosing a winner. All right, now let's see. I'm gonna start my video again so you can see me. All right. And now I'm gonna show you my super high-tech way of doing this. I just opened my email inbox, and now I'm gonna pick a winner, which is Beatrice Garza. I hope I pronounce it correctly. Beatrice, you're our winner today. Congratulations. Now, Beatrice, you just need to send me your mailing address, and then I'll get that book right into the mail to you. Awesome. All right. And with that, I'm going to conclude with a quote, which is actually my favorite quote. It's from Pat Riley, and it says, "Excellence is the gradual result of always striving to do better." So I hope today I could inspire you to take action and move forward to your own excellence. And with that, I'm gonna stop the screen share, and I'm ready to take on your questions. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to type it in the chat. And for those of you who have to leave, that is totally fine too. I just want to make myself available for those who have questions. Alrighty. Is there anything?
Yes, so if anyone has any questions, please go ahead and type them in the group chat option. Or if you would like to unmute yourself, you can let me know and I can do that as well. So I have a question, Kristina. I know
Yes.
you gave away that book. What are some other favorite books on leadership that you can recommend?
Well, there are a couple of different ones that I'm thinking about. Um, so I think one of my one-time favorites is actually the Slight Edge. I don't know if you've heard of that. It is really um, it it is very motivational, and I just read it again during this pandemic because it just helped me so much, kind of getting into the mindset that I need to be in order to make the most out of this time and not just I don't know, drop off and say, you know what, this is overwhelming, this is just too much. So I really like that book. Other than that, I must say I'm not the biggest fan of all those leadership type books. There are many out there that are just repeating the same messages. So I kind of stopped at some point reading all of them. And I always want to make sure when I recommend something that it's really worthwhile reading. So definitely The Strangest Secret, it's awesome and it's super, super short. And The Slight Edge as well, very very good books. Yes.
Great, thank you. I'm always looking for those shorter books. So,
Yeah, me too.
so
Awesome.
we have one from Beatrice. I manage a group, and now oftentimes I feel like my team is multitasking when I give direction. I ask them to participate, but I feel like they feel I am such a mom.
Oh, oh wow. Beatrice, do you do video chats when you communicate with your team so you can see what they're doing? Um, is that something you're doing right now? Because I know for a fact that if you have conversations with people and they are not showing their video, they are doing something else while they're talking to you. So it definitely helps if you have them like face to face in front of you and they're not able to do anything else. And the last comment that they would see you as a mom, sometimes it's assumptions. Maybe they don't, maybe they are just overwhelmed with everything going on, and you know, they try to get their own stuff done, household, kids, whatever. So also here, if you have a feeling that maybe something is off, I would always bring it up. Would always use the opportunity to talk about it or to check in with them if everything's all right, if you know they're missing something, or you know, if you can support in any other way, or if they would expect maybe another, I don't know, way to communicate, something like that. So always having the conversation instead of assuming something and not knowing what's really going on. So I hope that's kind of helpful.
Yes, she wrote on here, no, just voice meetings, but good idea. I could make virtual meetings.
Yeah, you know, I realized it myself also with some clients. When you have them on the phone, they're like at some point kind of sliding away sometimes, and you're like, are you still there? And when you have them in front of you with video chat, you see exactly what they're doing, if they're getting distracted, if they're taking up their phone or whatever. So that's a super simple tool to just make sure everyone's on the same page and is present.
Yeah, I know Google Hangouts is free for you to use if you have that,
Yes,
Beatrice. And then Zoom gives you, if you don't have an account with them, you can set up a meeting for 30 minutes,
right.
and it's free too. So,
Yeah, it's a good recommendation. Awesome. Any other question? No, maybe just a last piece from my side. And like I said before, the good news is really the foundation of communication hasn't changed during this time. And that is something to build on. So keep on doing all the things you've been doing so far, but just dial it up a notch and kind of communicate more transparently, more openly, clearer, and things will be fine. And just make sure that everyone feels connected and feels engaged. So when you have team meetings, using a video chat, that is helpful, and there are other options to really connect more and be kind of present with each other. But never forget, it's not that we have to change significantly in order to get through that pandemic. Just use what you always used, use the 3 strategies, and just dial it up a number, and then you'll be fine.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristina, for taking time out of your busy day to present today's webinar. I really appreciate it. I think all of our attendees value your education and your knowledge in this area. So thank you so much again. Thank you everyone for attending. If you would like to check out the recording of this webinar, if you missed any part of it or want to share with their team, especially, it will be posted within 1 to 2 business days on events.bbcommunity.org. Please have a great day and please stay safe and healthy out there.